Hi there, this is my channel, Jaru Walks. In the year 2024, I will embark on an epic walking journey across the United States. My plan is to walk 8,000 miles across the US 3 times, via the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail. In the hiking world, this is known as a calendar year Triple Crown, and has only been completed by a handful of people in history. I plan to post weekly updates along the way, so you can join me for the journey.
Section, and they're fantastic, right? They got piles of money out of DC. It's lots of volunteers and everything.
So I'm in line at the Walmart resupplying this morning, and the lady checking out in front of me says to the cashier, "Well, winter's back." I'm like, damn, that doesn't sound good. And man, it's cold and windy. So I'm taking a quick little break here because I just kind of saw something in my mapping system, far out, the app, that was shocking to me. The last water source that I hit, which thankfully I drank up at, was 3 miles back. And I think I drank about half of a liter of water. And then I filled my bottle only half of a liter because that's as much as I could get out of it, basically. Because it was such a thin stream of water. And I already drank half of that, so I have a quarter of a liter of water left, which is like, I don't know, that amount of water. I guess I could just show you. I think that's actually less than a quarter of a liter of water. You can see where it's at. Anyway, so I'm unintentionally on a 21-mile water carry, I think. I hope I'm wrong and I come across some stream, but I looked at every single marker along the way, every road intersection, and there's no water marked anywhere. Like, there's notes of places where there have been water in the past, but all of the comments say dry, 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 dry. So I think that I'm in the process of a 21-mile water carry, and I'm currently thirsty 3 miles into it. And I have a quarter of a liter of water left. I feel like when things like this happen, like, I tend to get angry or upset as if it's the trail's fault. And I think under normal conditions, if you are hiking like in the bubble of the hike, you would get a heads up, right? There'd be comments everywhere or people telling you watch out. But I'm out here and there's like, I don't know, a handful of people ahead of me, which I wish like they would have left a comment about that. It would have been great, you know. I feel like I'm being negative. I don't really care. I mean, like, when I go through this, I'm going to leave thorough comments. Like, I think there's been 1 or 2 times where I hit a place where it's like, oh, wow, that was a 9-mile water carry. And there was no updated comment. And I'm like, really? Nobody? Nobody updated it? I remember being on the Arizona Trail occasionally, and I would see, like, there's some critical water source where it's like, if this one's dry, then it's going to be a 20-mile water carry through the desert. And there'd be no update to the comments, sometimes in like 2 weeks. Now, usually it would be like updated every couple of days. But occasionally there wouldn't have been an update in 2 weeks. And I would get pretty frustrated because, like, I mean, that's pretty critical. If it turns out that it's dry, you know, it would just be nice to know beforehand, even if it is flowing. And so, anyway, all the last updates say dry. So I'm guessing since no one updated, it must mean that everything's still dry. And I saw notes about water being stored at roads, but those comments are from like the summer. So I'm not expecting a water cache anywhere. So I don't know. I guess I could go down the trail and find out there is water flowing somewhere, or find a water cache somewhere stored. And I hope I do, but if I do, man, it would be nice to know that I'm not walking into a 21-mile water carry, you know? And like, theoretically, I could turn around and go get water 3 miles behind me. But that would be a 6-mile round trip detour and put me about 12 miles behind. And I don't want to do that. So I don't know. I'd rather just walk thirsty for 20 miles than do that. So I'm not in a good mood. So a quick little update from the Black Rock Hut shelter in the Shenandoah National Park. Last night, I was 11 miles into my water carry of what, based on the Far Out app, was telling me would be a 21-mile length water carry before I would hit another water source. Lo and behold, I hear the sound faintly in the distance of running water. I'm listening to a podcast. I'm like, wait, I feel like I hear running water. So I take my earbuds out. I think that's a creek. I drop my bag and I go running down this hill and I find flowing water. And I'm like, wow, amazing. And so I check this little, there's an icon because I'm near a parking lot. That icon had some comments, but guess what? They hadn't been updated since like September. And they were saying, oh, there's a creek down there, but it's dry. And no one, and I promise you, scores or more, 50 or more people have hiked through here, and I bet half of them are using the Far Out app. No one updates a comment either saying, hey, it's November, it's still dry, or hey, it's December, it's flowing again. Radio silence. And then I get to the shelter, and it's supposed to be dry, because it's the same thing. Last summer, last comment, dry, dry, dry. No update, radio silence for 4 months. And I get here, and it's flowing like a fire hydrant, okay? And like my only basis for comparison is the Arizona Trail, where, maybe 40 people per year hike it in October and November, and 40 people per year hike it in March and April. And if you contrast that with the Appalachian Trail, where there's like 4,000 hikers doing it, right? It's so baffling to me that on the Arizona Trail, all of these areas, like anywhere there's anything useful, there's comments updated at least every half a week to a week. And even if the status is the same, people when they get there will confirm, yeah, the water's still flowing, because things can change in a week, And on the Appalachian Trail, it's the opposite. It's 4,000 people hiking versus 40, and stuff gets updated like seemingly once every month or 2 months, or sometimes it goes 6 months, as in like right now. And it's frustrating because my reality looking at these comments is that it's a 21-mile water carry. And so I'm thinking the whole time, don't drink water. And I didn't drink a single sip of water for 12 miles yesterday. And then I get here and the water's flowing. And I'm like, what the hell, people who are ahead of me, like who probably went through the same thing and found water and then didn't update the comments. Like, how self-absorbed do you have to be to hike 12 miles thirsty and then find water? And you're going, you only even know that this water source is here because people have comments about it, and then to not update the comments. Like, that's so, it's almost like something has to be like wrong with your brain. Like some people have, like this morning, there was a guy in the shelter who was just moaning, going, oh God. Yeah, I'm not making fun of him at all, but I'm just saying like he had some kind of paranoid delusion going on. I actually asked him, like, are you okay? And he's like, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't know anyone was here. And then he says, when the winds picked up, my tent blew up into the tree. I was like, oh, did you get it back? He's like, yeah, it's good. It's all good now. And then I realized like there haven't been any winds today. And I also saw his tent earlier. Like, there's no way it blew up in the tree. Oh, he has some kind of, psychotic issue. And then I was just like, he's no harm to anyone, whatever. And I'm just saying, like, he has that's not something he can control. There's just a switch missing in his brain, or a switch that's firing in his brain that's not in everyone else's brain. And we should have compassion towards this person who's struggling in life, yet is just like us and wants to be out here hiking. He's just got a whole nother level of challenges up against him. So we have compassion for that. But I'm just explaining, that guy has a switch off in his brain. I'm going off on all these tangents right now, but when people look down their nose at homeless people on the street, they're like, why don't they get a job? It's like, you know what? That's a serious question that has a real answer. Why don't they get a job? Why don't you sit your ass down on the curb, buy them dinner, and ask them why they don't have a job? What you will get is, and I've done this, like, I'm in a war with the aliens. I've been assaulted 5 times in my life. They're trying to genocide the world. It's just these meandering thoughts that in our world don't make sense, right? And like, imagine asking the kind of, you look at those people like they're idiots, but like for one moment, if you step out of your ignorance into like getting some knowledge and talking to these people, you quickly find out you're the idiot. You're the idiot. Why don't they get a job? Because they're talking about how they've been sexually assaulted by aliens over 5 lifetimes and are currently in a war defending Earth. If anything, if that's that guy's real reality, you should probably say thank you for your service, because to him it's real. So, sorry, these are tangents, but they're all related. So, that guy has a switch that's misfiring in his brain, and I'm saying I'm guilty, like the person who looks down their nose at a schizoid homeless person, because in my head you almost have to have a switch missing in your brain to hike through a dry stretch for 12 miles where it's supposed to be a 21-mile dry stretch and not update a single comment as you're going through it. There must be some form of like social awareness that's missing to not consider that so much of our ability to quickly move down the trail is a result of accurate and consistently updated comments on statuses of particular things like water sources, to then benefit from that but not contribute to the system. There must be some broken switch in your brain to not update. So I'm saying all that to say I'm really angry at this person, but in reality I should take a step back and just realize these people must have switches missing in their brain. But anyway, the comments are updated. So for anyone who's coming behind me, you're set. It is a hard stretch, but there is water, and I've ornately mapped out and given you warnings. 15 miles up trail, get ready. There's a 11-mile water carry, but there is water. It's not a 21-mile water carry. God, it's annoying, but it is what it is. So I'm currently about 25 miles of hiking into Shenandoah National Park. And I feel like I'll catch flack for this comment. It's kind of like when I was in the Smokies. But I don't really care either way. I'll still say it. So, although I will say the Smokies redeemed themselves. But anyway, yeah, I'm 25 miles into Shenandoah National Park. And this is the view. It's a beautiful view. But I am confused as of right now why this is a national park, because it's not any different to anything I've been seeing beauty-wise along the entire Appalachian Trail. That's how I felt when I was first coming into the Smokies, but there was an aha moment, like, oh, sorry, let me go back and correct myself. This should be a national park. But so far, it's just been these beautiful rolling hills. Like, I would get why it would be a state park, but... and then the other thing is, like, everywhere I've been within eyesight of the city, which is, it's like maybe even on average less remote than some of the spots on the Appalachian Trail, outside of the park. So I'm not like disappointed. I'd never even heard of Shenandoah National Park until like a week ago. So I guess I didn't really have like massive expectations, but so far, I mean, it would make sense to be a state park, but not a national park. I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm from a state that has no national parks, and it shouldn't have any national parks. I'm just trying to tell you what I think is true. So far, it feels like Virginia had a really good politician who, like, nickeled and dimed his way into some kind of sweet deal to turn this into a national park. Because in my view, like, I want the best pieces of property in the United States preserved and protected. But so far, I would imagine there'd be somewhere else that would, like, be a better national park than this. Because a lot of resources go into the preservation of the land once it's deemed a national park. So anyway, I still have plenty of hiking to go through here, though. So I'm happy to be proved wrong. So, and if and when that happens, I will make sure it makes the edit. So we'll see. Okay, so it is getting prettier. I'll give it that. That was a really stunning view. Oops, sorry guys. So I'm starting to develop a new theory on the Shenandoah National Park. So I'm not sure if you can see over there. I'll cut to a video to show it in better form. Let me do that real quick. So it's a beautiful sunrise out here. And if you see that road, the video doesn't quite capture it, but I mean, there's a road that runs through Shenandoah National Park that it's just stunning. And so I've been noticing, like, there's a lot of foot traffic in this park where people like drive to a parking lot. Like, that is a parking lot right there with a vista that comes off the road. And then I think people just kind of soak in the view and they get back in their car and they keep driving. And I've seen a lot of like Harley Davidson kind of road hog motorcyclists rolling through. And so my sense is that this park is like not as much about hiking so much as it is about this really magnificent road that runs through. It kind of reminds me of like I forget the name of the road, like the 101 on the West Coast or whatever that runs along the cliffs. It's just like, you could see how a movie could almost be filmed, you know, on this stunning road. And the quality of the road is just top notch. So sure feels like it's like a driving national park more than a hiking one. Because again, like, look, like road over here, as soon as I turn, this is just everywhere I'm seeing. It's just like, you know, I don't know, mobile home units, trailer park, city off in the distance. So anyway, like, it's a great park. It's just I'm still confused why it's a national park. But it's just a thing that I've noticed before on trail. You'll have people who hike 10-mile days and they're like, look at someone who does 20-mile days and they're like, how do you even have time to enjoy anything? And then you'll see people who do 20-mile days who look at people who do 30-mile days and they ask the same question. And then you'll see people who do 30-mile days who look at people who do FKTs and do 45-mile days and they ask them the same question. And then also you can reverse the order and take people who do big miles and ask them about people who do 10-mile days. And they're just like, you know, it would take forever. Like, I don't know how you spend that much time in camp, you know? It's just hilarious how everyone thinks they're doing it the right way on some level. And like, from my perspective, it's like, when I see that camper in Georgia sitting there stretching and sipping coffee under an awning in front of the shelter deep down in this valley as the rain's falling so hard you can't even look more than 10 feet through it. I didn't take a photo of it when I saw him doing that, but I thought to myself, man, if I weren't going for this county or Triple Crown, I'd sit there right with him. I wouldn't say a word to him. I'd just make some coffee and I'd sit right there with him and look at it. Like, I see the value of the 10-mile day. There's an amazingness to it. Now, at the same time, when I'm going 2,000 miles and I realize that the consequence of a 10-mile day for over 2,000 miles on the Appalachian Trail would mean that this hike is going to take me like 8 or 9 months, at some point I'm kind of like, I want to crush miles. And I suspect a lot of the people who do 10-mile days and never push beyond it, they're more into camping than they are into hiking. And when there's 4,000 people who start the Appalachian Trail in a year and only 1,000 finish it, I promise you the 3,000 who are quitting are all the campers that can't push past 10 miles a day. There's a handful, I think, who do 10 miles a day and make it all the way to the end. But those people are few and far between. And so anyway, on the other hand, to put it into relation to people who like look at someone doing 20 or 30 miles a day and they're like, how could you possibly have fun? It's like, there's a mental challenge to this, and like, you have to figure out how to become more efficient and how to break through mental barriers. Like, you're transforming as a human being as you're learning how to actually, like, you don't just hike 30 miles, you become the mind, the heart, and the calf muscles that hikes 30 miles. It's a physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, logistical transformation. And that journey is amazing. Like, I was chilling in the pre-shelter and there were these 2 ultra marathoners, you know, trainees or whatever, who were like serious runners, who, when I was sitting there in the rain, taking my Nero day a couple of days ago, they come running up to the shelter. They stop in, say, hey, what's up? How's it going? What are you doing? You know? And they could look at me like some weird homeless person, which I'm not, but I could see why, because some people came in later and looked at me like I was some, you know, homeless person. Again, who would care? Why would you treat me any different for being a homeless person? I just spent the night last night in a shelter with a homeless guy. But yeah, they roll in, and I just remember the guy who came in, just his eyes were lit up electrically, you know, just kind of like, hey, oh man, I didn't see you there. How's it going? You know, just, it's like his heart rate, his resting heart rate at night must be so damn slow that he just, with every stroke of his heart, he's able to get so much more physically accomplished than your average human being. Like, the resting heart rate of, I know that he did drugs, but Lance Armstrong was something like 30 beats per minute. And then I think Greg LeMond sorry, these are some tangents, but I think they're interesting tangents. Greg LeMond, who is kind of the greatest cyclist of the United States of all time, who I really believe didn't dope, he also had on record the second lowest resting heart rate ever recorded of anyone on Earth. And that's the exact thing you would need to be a phenomenal endurance athlete. And I believe this is true. The human being who has the lowest resting heart rate measured on Earth is, I can't remember his name right now, but he's a European ultramarathoner who is more or less like if Tiger Woods hadn't gone off the deep end and continued to dominate the way that he did in his early career. Kilian Jorneau, that's his name. That's how good Kilian Jorneau is at ultramarathoning. He grew up in the Alps. And I don't know, it must be partially genetic, but I think it's partially like epigenetic, where maybe his DNA changed over his life. But he's been running since he was 3 years old in the Swiss mountains. And I believe, maybe someone fact check this or I'll fact check it later, I believe he does have the lowest resting heart rate measured on Earth ever. And so it's just how fascinating to see the two human beings with the lowest resting heart rates, which is not something, you can control it and lower it to an extent, but it is a component epigenetic, meaning you can change it a little bit, but it's also, there's a component that's just static genetic, meaning you're born with, your resting heart rate can only go so low. And so, and sorry, these are long tangents, but I think that they're interesting and I'll try and bring it back. So Greg LeMond had this whole theory of how he knew people were doping, including Lance Armstrong, before the media publicized it. And he said he was solely going off of what their resting heart rate was and then like what their wattage output per hour was while cycling, because a given resting heart rate is only capable of putting out a certain amount of wattage. And if you chart it, which he did, he could just demonstrate to you historically, if you look at what the charts look like prior to different stages of doping and cycling, there are these just stair-step shifts up. And those would be new eras of doping in his, opinion and calculation. And he was saying this prior to all this coming out, and then it all came out that everyone's doping. Pretty fascinating, I think. And he insists he didn't dope, and he also says, look, I have the resting heart rate to prove it. And another wild thing is, he was actually shot in young age, but accidentally by his brother-in-law with a shotgun while they were hunting, and it hit him in the heart. So he actually was working with a damaged heart on top of that. So pretty wild. Bringing it back further now, when some 10 mile per day camper's like, oh, how could you possibly enjoy yourself going 20 miles a day or 30 miles a day or whatever? The answer is it's a different kind of fun. It's not the kind of fun that comes from the flavor of ribeye fat on your tongue. It's not the kind of fun that comes from the goosebumps of having coffee sitting under the awning in the rain every morning for 2 hours. And those are amazing experiences, don't get me wrong. It's the hard type 2 kind of fun that comes usually upon reflection, or even when you're not even on trail and your body's transformed and you're proud of the walls you're able to break through to get there. That's how you have fun. And in addition, the faster you go, the more you're able to see. Like the people who do 10 miles a day and have fun camping, which is fun, most of them don't even make it to see the whites. You pretty much have to be going about at some point 18 miles a day, 15 miles a day to see the whites and not drop out. Yes, there are people who go slower than that and don't drop out, but they are anomalous. And there's other long trails where you have ultra long gaps between cities, unlike the Appalachian Trail, where it's like a city every 40 miles. And if you can't do big miles, you're just not going to hike those trails. You're not going to get to see those things. And the last thing is, there's something amazing about the things you see when you are doing big miles. Like sometimes you got to push hard through the night to make it to a resupply or something. And next thing you know, you're in tune with the moon cycles. They actually matter to you now. What time does the moon rise? I don't know. Let me look it up on my phone. No, the moon rises tonight at 11:15 p.m. I know, because it was 10:15 p.m. earlier. and it's a quarter moon. And once the moon is brighter than an eighth of a moon, meaning eighth of the moon out, I can now almost navigate. I could definitely navigate the trail with my red headlamp on. I don't even need the full beam. When it's a full moon, I could almost hike the trail without a headlamp. And I know that the way the desert landscape of the Highline Trail in the mid-desert of Arizona lights up at night, in the black and white light of the moonlight, is almost a psychedelic, completely otherworldly experience. You'd never know if you're the sort of person who wakes up with the sunrise and goes and builds camp 2 hours before the sun sets, because you're never going to be out there hiking in that. You might, as a form of novelty, one day do that, but if you're not consistently out there hiking 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days a week on your trail journey at night, you don't have enough time, enough hours out in the night to eventually hit upon these experiences where you then get to soak in the beauty of a bright moonlight, deep night hike. So, key point being, it's fascinating how people can look down their noses at each other. You go too slow, you go too fast. Even I, the guy who goes fast, looks at the guy who goes faster, and I critique him the same way, even though I get pissed off when someone who does 10 miles a day says I go too fast to enjoy myself. Like, I'm not talking about me personally. I'm just saying, like, I've seen all those people on the trail, and it's unbelievable how they have something in common. They're all looking at the situation only from their own perspective, and they don't recognize that if they get upset when some like slow person critiques them for being too fast, but then they later look down their nose at the guy going for the FKT or whatever who's going too fast, you're the same person. There's no consistency. Like, you don't have a core value. The core value is the way I look at the world is the way it should be, which to me is just kind of hilarious. I think the core value here is we're all out here to have fun, and there's different ways to have fun in the context of your life, and the nature of your core values dictate how you align your hike to have fun for yourself. But anyway, like, there's a lot of judgment that, you know, someone who's going fast experiences along the way, like, where people are looking down on them for going too fast, when in reality what's happening is the person who's critiquing, anyone who's ever critiquing someone else for no reason, is feeling an insecurity, and they're projecting that insecurity by critiquing and trying to tear down that person. Okay, I mean, that's what I've always seen in life. And so the reason I'm focusing more on trying to explain to people how you could have some kind of fun while going fast is because everyone on earth has slept in the morning on Sunday morning or Saturday morning till 10 a.m. Has rolled out of bed at some point to then stay in their bed clothing and go to a diner in their bed clothing where they order a giant breakfast, and then goes home, watches TV all day, and then goes to bed. That's the kind of fun that's easy to accomplish, and we've all done that. We all know how that's fun. You don't have to explain to anyone why eating a steak is fun, or why eating a vegan tofu scrambled burrito for breakfast, if you're vegan, you know, why that tastes amazing on Sunday morning. We all know why that's fun. But I think a lot of people struggle to imagine how doing big miles could possibly be fun. And so that's why I'm going so much deeper into looking at this from that perspective, explaining how type 2 fun is fun. Anyway, long rant over, but I think all those points lined up, all those tangents fit in a row. So I'm hiking along a ridgeline here in Shenandoah National Park still, but I paused here because another view from Shenandoah. So it's actually, I mean, it's a magnificent view of the city. It is pretty, but check out that cloud off in the distance. That is, I don't know if it's a controlled burn or if it's a true fire. That smoke is so thick it looks like a real fire. I'm gonna cut it and zoom in. But you still kind of see what I mean as well. Like every view is of like the city. It's just an interesting national park. It's like very slim to where you're like running through it lengthwise, but every view is just kind of like of the surrounding city and the hills. That's another thing that just kind of like has been a shocking aspect of this experience is I've hiked right around 1,000 miles or so, and the only animals that I have seen are deer, squirrels, birds, that's literally it. So like I have not seen a raccoon. I'm not even trying to like pick outlandish animals. I'm just saying like I haven't seen a raccoon. I haven't seen a possum. I haven't seen like a beaver. I mean, that would be a little more out there animal. Like all the other, I don't know, places in nature I've been, and I don't even necessarily mean in nature, just if you go to the center of the United States, which is like not known for being beautiful or something, there's just such a greater plethora of wildlife. If anything, kind of like one of the observations of the Appalachian Trail so far has been just, man, it's remarkable how seemingly the East Coast has just exterminated virtually all of its wildlife. It like you walk through these forests and they feel empty. Like I feel happy when I come across a deer, and I will say the squirrel and the birds are everywhere. And you do see some cool hawks, but you just have this sense of like, okay, there's no people out here. And even the stranger thing is there's no animals out here. And I really don't get the sense that, you know what, I guess, let me add, there were bobcats, although I didn't see them. I saw their paw prints. But when I'm out here, every bit of this terrain looks like somewhere where animals would love to live. There's nothing about it that couldn't support life. There's water everywhere. Lots of terrain and features, like, but there's virtually no wildlife. So my sense is that there was once a thriving wildlife out here, but since this has been settled for the longest time and there weren't really customs and standards, we've probably just killed all of our wildlife on the East Coast. Because if it was out here, I promise you I would see it. I walk every hour of the day, you know, frequently, and I'm not. What I've told you is exactly what I've seen out here. This is me saying bye to the Shenandoahs. I think this is actually the prettiest view I've had so far.
Baby,